All right, let's return to our earlier story. Buckingham Palace has confirmed that President Cyril Ramaphosa will meet with King Charles III in November. This is the first state visit since he took the throne. Let's discuss with SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena. Sophie, thank you for being with us. Buckingham Palace saying that President Cyril Ramaphosa has accepted an invitation from the King. Is it notable that the South African president is the first to be invited by this new king?
Well, it is no surprise. You know that as we look at the influence on the continent, South Africa always gets targeted because we are the second largest economy on the continent. Secondly, when you look at investment, particularly foreign direct investment from the United Kingdom, these are large sums. And also in terms of ownership of property, of mines, and all of that. So the United Kingdom is always ensuring that the relationship between South Africa and itself is always cordial because they have to protect their own interests. Now, you also know that when you look at the numbers in terms of tourism, now, recently, the Minister of Tourism, Lindiwe Sisulu, pointed out that the largest chunk in terms of numbers, when you look at international tourists, you have United Kingdom at the top. The continent in its totality, yes, it does give us large numbers, but you really rely on United Kingdom in terms of tourism, and with South Africa experiencing those summer times and days, you know that majority of people in the northern hemisphere would want to visit the South Africa or the southern part of Africa, and therefore you are trying to strengthen this relationship. The monarchy is always used for soft power, and therefore as the head of state of United Kingdom, he will be the one hosting the president. But the prime minister will also have engagements with president. We'll see the president going to 10 Downing. In terms of government, I don't know whether it will be something that we can benefit out of because as we speak, Liz Truss is experiencing a terrible, terrible backlash in terms of the presentation of the exchequer or the Minister of Finance in that country and the markets, how they reacted. And as we speak, when you look at the polls, opinion polls, is really, really trailing worse than Boris Johnson when he was leaving office. And there are people who are also calling for elections. So I don't know the timing, but I think United Kingdom, and you know that during the passing on of the Queen, the response from South Africa was very, very strong and vicious from ordinary South Africans. And I think you know that they get briefing, and as head of state of Commonwealth, he has to ensure that there's warm relationship with one of the Commonwealth member countries.
Yeah, indeed. And you're right. Liz Truss dealing with a whole lot of internal ructions. But from a South African perspective, Sophie, do you agree with me that I'm sure the president hopes for a significant engagement or a really fruitful engagement because there's been a changing of the guard, as it were, in terms of leadership. So important for both sides to establish a new relationship.
Yes, it is important, but when you look at the South African perspective, this visit comes at a time where the president has to be seen and be heard and be at the forefront in terms of the ANC processes to the National Elective Conference. And you know that one thing that some of his detractors have been saying is perhaps the issue of globe-trotting, as they put it. Now, the question is the timing towards the elective conference. Yes, it will be 4 or 3 weeks before elective conference, but it is too close to the elective conference because it's towards end of November, and in December you have this elective conference. So the processes of the ANC conference will be at the peak in terms of preparations. and therefore some might use this visit to try and attack him, particularly on challenging issues in South Africa, but also this vibe that has been there, particularly during the passing on of the Queen. But at the end of the day, he is the head of state of the country. He has to do work in terms of the country. But I can tell you there will be people who are going to use this opportunity, particularly his detractors, to really get on him as part of perhaps minimizing his chances to navigate come December, even though we know that as we speak, it's not clear whether he's got a strong challenger. And we've seen provinces saying that when those processes, which have already start at that time, they will nominate him. And we've seen branches already doing that. Therefore, it is a very, very difficult one. And Francis, the technicality also here, besides visiting United Kingdom, there's a G20 summit pending in Indonesia in November. And that one, it's not a bilateral. It's where South Africa is affiliated to the G20, the most powerful group of nations. And it is critical for South Africa to be there because issues such as the war in Ukraine, the impact of COVID-19 are going to be on the table. And South Africa is trying to revive its economy. Therefore, you have to go to Indonesia. The other issue is COP27. COP27 in Egypt. This is a big gathering of heads of state. He couldn't go to Glasgow because of the elections, local government elections last year. And South Africa is at the forefront pushing to ensure that there's agreements are implemented. You know, we're talking about the just energy transition. And therefore, the voice of South Africa at COP27 is very critical. And that is another important platform where he is supposed to be. So it will be interesting to see how he's going to juggle his international diary, looking at also the challenges back home and to that important ANC elective conference.
All right, so a lot on the agenda, a lot of juggling to do. Thank you, our international editor here at the SABC, Sophie Mokoena.